Hey, are you hiring? If you answered yes, let XenTegra Staffing help staff your IT people needs. Head over to XenTegra.com/XenTegra Staffing to find out more. XenTegra Staffing, we can staff your IT people needs. Welcome to another edition of the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton, your source for all things Citrix.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 39 of the Citrix Session. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. I got with me Bill Sutton, the Director of Services at XenTegra. Bill, I think, was it last week you were off? You got some PTO in some time, or am I...
No, last week I was... No, I haven't had PTO for a couple of weeks, but last PTO I had was when I was down your way, riding jet skis on Lake Norman.
And that was what, like 3 months ago or 2 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
At first, when the pandemic thing hit, things slowed down, and now they're twice as fast as they were before the pandemic in terms of day-to-day busyness. And I can't tell you if I had to think just now. It's Thursday. And I had to think about it because I would have swore it was Monday or Tuesday. I had no idea. All right. Well,
I get it.
Well, the goal today is to cover a blog written by Monica Griesemer. Sorry, Monica. I think I screwed up your last name this time. Monica, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, hi all. Thanks for having me. It's Monica Griesemer. No worries at all. It's very difficult. The running joke is I did not choose my last name, was born into it. But yeah, really excited to be here. I am also confused about what day it is, but happy to be on the podcast today. I am a little bit about me. I'm a product marketing associate at Citrix on the Citrix virtual apps and desktops, as well as Citrix Hypervisor products. So all things virtualization, that's my job.
Well, and I think that's interesting that it's part of the virtual app and desktop, because at some point in a minute, we're going to talk through the history of the Citrix Hypervisor, and we're going to highlight the fact that it really is just a sweet spot for the CVAD, Citrix Virtual App and Desktop products and workspace products. But Monica, the blog you wrote is from June 26th, 25th, which kind of helps us get the dates and time together. I can't believe it's already middle of August almost.
Right.
The blog you wrote is Citrix Hypervisor 8.2 LTSR, so long-term service release is here, and we're going to go into that. But let's take a walk down memory lane real quick, and let's talk about hypervisors in general, and then hypervisors as they became at Citrix. I'm gonna try to tell the story, and then I'll let Bill and yourself correct where I got it wrong. Okay.
Sounds great.
All right, so many of us know the world of virtualization or machine virtualization kind of got started with VMware in the x86 world. I remember the first time I rolled out a hypervisor in front of some of my old IBM friends, and they quickly pointed out that they had that on the mainframe and the Unix systems way before this. So they corrected me, which they always do. But x86 virtualization really has its origins around the guys at VMware. And somewhere into that journey, some guys created an open source product called Xen, and then a company around it or associated with it called XenSource, which took an open source project of hypervisor machine virtualization and then made it a packageable, sellable, supportable product somewhere in the UK, and that company was called XenSource, right?
Sounds correct to me.
Yes. Yep. And XenSource was taken on by us, I believe, in 2007. So been a handful of years since then. But yep, I think you got that right. So kudos to you.
So I'll tell a little bit about my personal story here, right? So I started rolling out VMware solutions in 2004 timeframe. I went to a VMware user group meeting, and the guys from Citrix were there. And that's how I got back into the Citrix world, because I started having conversations with VMware and Citrix in the room together. And that got my interest around the desktop and app virtualization going again. It had been a few years since I'd been touching that, and the fact that I could do both was interesting to everybody. So we had that conversation, and it's actually VMware is responsible for me spending all these years as a Citrix employee and a Citrix consultant, and now a Citrix and VMware consultant. It's actually kind of a funny story when you know the ins and outs. But as you pointed out, at some point Citrix needed to get into the hypervisor realm as VMware started expressing interest in the desktop and app virtualization realm. And the next thing you know, Citrix acquires XenSource, and at that point becomes a big contributor to the Xen open source community. And that product at Citrix became what we knew up until recently as XenServer, right, Bill?
That's right.
And out of the gate, Citrix's goal with that is to become a competitor to VMware on the hypervisor side. At the same time, this little company called Microsoft showed up with Hyper-V. The guys at Red Hat started doing some stuff around KVM and Xen. Actually, Red Hat was using Xen too at that point in time. But anyway, the space became a little more crowded. VMware was still the champion there, but people like Citrix and Microsoft got involved, and that was really a big part of our beginning phase of moving to the cloud. But so Citrix now has a hypervisor that for a couple years they really wanted to become a head-to-head competitor with VMware. In many cases, especially if you were a Citrix guy, it did. But we also had the Hyper-V piece that Citrix has a challenge of do we put the pedal down on this, or do we rely on people like Microsoft and Red Hat, which are our partners, to let them do it? And eventually it ends up being that it became a VMware world, a Microsoft world, a Nutanix world with Acropolis, which is KVM based, and Red Hat and Oracle. But Citrix has kind of pulled back from being the hypervisor of choice for the data center, and really done a really good job of focusing on being a great hypervisor for Citrix workloads like virtual app and desktop and NetScaler/ADC. And so now, Monica, tell me if I'm wrong here, but that's really the play for Citrix, is to be a great hypervisor for their solutions that allows you to remove that barrier to entry of the cost while still providing solutions that run very well on the other hypervisors in addition to Citrix.
Yes, 100%. I think you're just doing my job for me here, but I totally agree. I'd say Citrix Hypervisor is still competitive in this space. We have a lot of great individuals, a great engineering team behind it, but we really have found our niche in the market within the Citrix virtual apps and desktop stack. So we're really, Citrix Hypervisor, we position ourselves as the preferred go-to hypervisor for all of your Citrix products. Obviously, you can run Citrix on top of other hypervisors and vice versa. You can run other virtualizations on top of other virtualization solutions, rather, on top of Citrix Hypervisor. But we really are better as one cohesive unit. So that's really where our efforts have been, and we've got some good stuff going. So I'm really excited to chat with you more about that today.
Well, let's talk about a couple things real quick. So we should talk about the name real quick.
Sure.
So at some point it went from being called XenServer to Citrix Hypervisor, which in theory for the layman is probably a better name for it because it makes sense. But a lot of us old guys still call it XenServer. And what was that, about a year or two ago that Citrix renamed a bunch of products, including XenServer?
Yes. So about 2 years ago now, as you were saying at the top of the call, time really flies. We changed our offerings to be, I'd say, more forthcoming about exactly what the products do. So I'm sure all of you might still refer to some as Xen Apps and Desktop. We now switched to Citrix Virtual Apps, Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops. So a little bit behind that change was the change in the XenServer naming. So we were XenServer all the way up until I'd say about last year. So XenServer 7.6 was the last Xen named release. And then when 8.0 came out, about late 2018, early 2019, we changed to the Citrix Hypervisor naming scheme. And that also changed a little bit of the platform. The 8.0 platform was a little bit different than the 7.x platform. So that's the story there, is with that shift and a little bit of the platform itself, we also made the name change. So I hope that clears it up a little bit.
It does. It does a lot. We've covered a lot here, and Bill, as a as a gentleman of a certain age, I think that's how I'm supposed to say it. You've lived all this. You want to chime in on some?
Yeah, it's funny as you were talking about the VMware influence. I remember at a Synergy, Lord, I don't even know when it was. I'd heard of VMware, but I didn't really know what it was. And it was probably in the late 90s, I would guess, maybe early 2000s. And I went to a seminar on virtualizing XenApp workloads that was led by someone from Citrix and someone from VMware. And I was just blown away by this concept where you could take an operating system and virtualize it on top of a thin layer of software on a piece of hardware. And at the end, I remember distinctly that they were giving away a copy of VMware Workstation at the end of that. And I was just dead on dying to win that. I said, I need that. I need to have this. I didn't win it. Ultimately, I bought it. But the point is that once that entered the game, and then Citrix bought XenSource. Of course, I was one of the first ones to get a copy and virtualize it on a laptop that I was able to way back when it was XenServer 4.0 or something. Mm-hmm. And I've got it. It's sitting on my lab right next to me right now. I still run it. I still have a good fondness for it. Obviously, VMware is a big player in the market, and we see that with a lot of our customers. But we do have a number of customers that are still running XenServer primarily for those Citrix workloads. I have a project on Sunday where a customer is moving a XenServer into a Citrix Hypervisor environment from one data center to another data center. So we still have customers using it actively and running those Citrix workloads, and it just chugs along.
Yeah, it really, and probably the nicest thing about running the Citrix workload on the Citrix Hypervisor versus all the others, if you get in a situation where you're looking for support and you need support on both aspects, whoever's on the other end of that phone call from Citrix is on the hook for getting you that help you need on the Hypervisor side, and you don't get in a finger pointing, he said, she said kind of situation.
Yeah.
100%.
All right, Monica, as the paid expert in this space, did we leave anything out that you'd want to cover before we jump into this LTSR conversation around the Citrix Hypervisor?
Yeah, I don't think so. I really appreciate your insights and your knowledge on this subject as well. As I said before, we really have a great team behind us. A lot of them are based out of Cambridge, England. So we have a great team working on it, and they spend a lot of time on the phone with the customers, making sure that we are getting exactly what they're needing out of the product as well. And then additionally, to Bill's point about our customers running both, kind of to give a little bit of a teaser here, but it's really, I think we've also become more competitive in the market from a cost perspective as well, because Citrix Hypervisor is included in every edition of Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops. So that has been a huge player in optimizing costs, especially right now for our customers that might want to make the move to Citrix Hypervisor and get just as good of a quality as the hypervisor is what they're previously using, and save a lot more money when doing so. So kind of wanted to plug that there as well before we jump into what the LTSR is.
Yeah, that's great. It really is a platform that has everything plus a lot more for desktop and application workloads. There's really not anything else you need in most cases. Okay, Monica, you can see the blog that you wrote, I assume. Do you want to just kind of intro it the way you introed it in the blog and kind of cover the announcements for the first couple paragraphs?
Really happy to. So I kind of framed this as the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, we introduced our first Citrix Hypervisor LTSR, and I'm saying those letters a lot. That means long-term service release. So it's a longer-term section of our release cycles. Our Citrix virtualization customers are probably familiar with that because the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops product line also has an LTSR. So going back, XenServer 7.1 was our very first LTSR. And since that point, we've had a number of current releases throughout. And now we're introducing 8.2 LTSR, which came out, as Andy said, in late June. So all of the features from 7.1 to now are included in this long-term service release. And really excited for our customers to get on it and take advantage of all of the features that have been baked in the past 3 years.
Okay. And then Monica, what does LTSR mean just in general and specifically around the Citrix Hypervisor?
Absolutely. So the long-term service release means that our customers have an extended maintenance and support lifecycle. So the current releases, if you're familiar with all the numbers from 7.1, 7.2, 8.0, those are all current releases. So those have a shorter life cycle, about 1 year until they go end of life. That's because we release them on a more frequent cadence. For the LTSR, since it's released less frequently, its life cycle is for 5 years after its release. So in June of 2025, that's when 8.2 will reach end of life. And then additionally, you can add on an extended 5 years of support and maintenance past that point. So essentially, you can have the LTSR in your environment fully functioning and supported for up to 10 years, which is really big for our customers.
Yeah, and it's an extremely big for the hypervisor piece because that's the foundation of what everything runs on. That needs to be uber stable and uber supported and not upgraded all that often until it's the time where it needs to be. So having that much runway, whether you need it or not, is a nice piece of the story.
Totally agreed. Yep.
Hey, Bill.
And our customers. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to give Bill a chance to chime in.
Please.
He's got good, valid points a lot. Go ahead, Bill.
Not always, but no, I think that, I agree with everything that's been said. The LTSR is really a critical piece, and it's really what 95% of the time we probably more than that, we focus on. If we're deploying Citrix Hypervisor, we're going to focus on the LTSR along with the companion Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops release as well for an on-premises workload.
Yeah. All right, Monica. The next portion of your blog talks about what's new, what's included.
Yeah, absolutely. So a great thing about our LTSR for both our virtual apps and desktops customers and the hypervisor is about predictability of the environment. So as Bill said, a lot of people implement this so they can implement it once and have some hot fixes and a few updates in there, but not have to fully upgrade super frequently. So having that predictability and having all of the features over the past 3 years included in this one release are really what's new and what's great about this specific release. We've added a few things in there, like the ability for Citrix Hypervisor admins to replace the host TLS certificates. So just giving a little bit more flexibility. But as I said, not too many additional features in the LTSR. If you have been implementing some of our CRs, maybe moved to 8.0, then this shouldn't be too big of a shift for you. But I also have another blog out there to do a little bit of a plug here of a top 10 reasons why you should move, and some more information on some of the greatest features over the past 3 years are in there as well.
Yeah, so Monica, let's go ahead and put ourselves on the calendar to cover that one in the coming weeks as well.
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. Well, the next section of your blog talks about upgrading, and let's address that.
Yes. So 8.2 moves us to the latest Xen platform, and we also have the latest version of XenCenter. So XenCenter is we still kept the Xen name there, but it's the management console for you to manage all of your Citrix Hypervisor workloads. So if you are a current release customer, so if you've been frequently updating, then this is your next logical step of a current release as well. So from 8.1 to 8.2. If you've been frequently updating your environment, then you will perform an update in the Citrix Hypervisor update wizard within XenCenter. But for our customers that are not on the current release cycle, or maybe are performing a fresh install, you will be performing an upgrade. So a little bit of a update versus upgrade verbiage there, but there is also a wizard within XenCenter to perform that full upgrade as well.
Okay, so you guys have made it pretty easy to migrate machine workloads around and get the latest update or the latest upgrade.
Yes.
It's just a matter of following the proper protocol there.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I highlight for a lot of people. I mean, there's not a lot of great Citrix Hypervisor consultants out there. I'll take a quick moment to plug anybody listening to this using Citrix Hypervisor. Let us know. We've got a phenomenal resource, best on the planet, I believe, at Citrix Hypervisor management and upgrades and troubleshooting. And I guess quick XenTegra plug. We don't do a lot of that in these podcasts, but we've got a great resource. And I know people struggle out there from time to time that don't have resources, and we got one. So anything we can do to help there would be great. Monica, you've done a great job covering this. You want to tell us maybe things you've got coming up in addition to the blog that you just mentioned a while ago that maybe people should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one small thing that I haven't covered in this that I think is important, just missed earlier on. Our customers need to be on customer success services in order to get the cumulative updates, which are more just hot fixes, bug fixes, in order to also have the extended support and maintenance. So that is kind of a footnote there, but our customers need to be on CSS. Additionally, for our customers that are on the open source version of Citrix Hypervisor, you don't get as many features as the premium version, but we still love our open source users out there as well. You can download Citrix Hypervisor LTSR, and that will be available until the first cumulative update comes out. So for about 1 year or so. As far as, yep, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, I missed that. Let's talk through that a little bit. So
yeah,
Citrix Hypervisor is actually free to anybody, right?
Yep.
If you want it to be supported and maintained from a software and a technical support perspective, that's when you buy the product from Citrix, and includes the maintenance cost annually to stay on customer success services, right?
So there's a little bit of fine points there. So you can get Citrix Hypervisor for free, and that is our Express version. Okay. So it's a lower level version of the product, still really great, but doesn't have quite as many features as the upper level editions. And then as far as the support and maintenance, so for customers that are already Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops customers, you get premium Hypervisor included in your payment, and then you also pay for customer success services on top of that. But that can be worked out, I believe, as a bundle, but that's an additional service. For customers that, yep, go ahead.
No, I was saying good. I got it.
Yes. And then for individuals that want Citrix Hypervisor separate of any other Citrix product, you can most definitely do that. But you have to purchase as a standalone product and then additionally get CSS. Is that helpful?
It is. Yeah, that clarifies it for me. Bill, any questions on that?
No, I mean, I think you covered it, Monica. Really, if the customer has Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop and the associated CSS, then they basically also get support and maintenance for their Citrix Hypervisor that comes bundled, as it were, with it.
Correct. They are good to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that was a roundabout answer to your initial question. So to finally get to your question that you started us off here, coming up, we have actually live now, a blog out there about the top 10 reasons why you should make the move to LTSR. So we might do a second installment of this podcast. I'd love to make my way back here. Additionally, we've got some new stuff coming out with Citrix Hypervisor. I really can't disclose anything at the moment to keep it really vague. But again, we've got some great people on this product really trying to make the change to change with the times, right? And change where people are going. So keep your eye on the blog site. Should be really excited in the coming, probably closer to 2021 to have some announcements. But for now, really, really excited to have people on the LTSR.
Well, that's exciting. That's kind of a cliffhanger for us.
It is, yes. Got to have the intrigue here.
Yeah. Well, Monica, we welcome you to come back the minute you're ready. And it sounds like we already need to get you on the schedule for the top 10 things that you're excited about that are already in the product. So we'll work on that. I'll make that an action item as soon as we jump off here. And I appreciate you joining.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And Bill, anything before we let you go? Anything happening in your world that you want to share here?
No, not really. Just plugging along. I appreciate you joining us today, Monica.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton. A special thanks to our guest for attending today's podcast. Podcast produced by Pete Downing. For any input, or if you'd like to be a part of our podcast, please email us at info@XenTegra.com. Please head over to XenTegra.com/podcast to listen to all podcasts in this series. This podcast is copyrighted by XenTegra LLC.